What is the latest on the ongoing legal battle between the SEC and Ripple? Also, what is the latest move by the SEC to clamp down the crypto market in the US? But first, we are giving away 25 XRP at the end of the month to one random subscriber to start on their XRP journey. All you need to do is to like the video, subscribe and comment your thoughts on XRP in the comment section. Welcome back XRP Army. Let's grow the XRP Lab community by pressing the like button and subscribing to this channel to stay updated at all times. Stay tuned till the end of the video to find out. On May 3, 2022, the SEC announced that they are doubling the size of its crypto assets and cyber unit. This announcement saw the introduction of new units which will include 50 employees, with at least 20 new investigators and/or litigators. The SEC announced that these new units will focus primarily on securities law violations connected to a host of crypto market entities such as crypto asset offerings, crypto asset exchanges, crypto asset lending, and staking products, NFTs, decentralized finance platforms, and stablecoins. If any meaning is to be read into this announcement, we can simply deduce that it is now becoming more apparent that the SEC is out of its depth and they are finally beginning to show their true color. It is almost as if they have an agenda against crypto-related projects. Therefore, this latest development is very disheartening whichever way you look at it. Reacting to this news, a member of the SEC Commissioner, Hester Peirce, questioned the actual role of the SEC in the crypto market. In one of her tweets shortly after the news broke, she said, "The SEC is a regulatory agency with an enforcement division and not an enforcement agency. So why are we leading with enforcement in crypto?" Hester Peirce's tweet pretty much sums up everything that is wrong with the SEC's long-standing issue with the crypto market under the supervision of the SEC leader, Gary Gensler. And that is one of the most annoying things we see going on in the market right now, specifically under the leadership of Gary Gensler, who is determined to bring forth regulation to the crypto market through enforcement. Of course, we all understand the importance of good and timely regulation. Just like the director of SEC Enforcement Division said in his briefing, he said that, "Crypto markets have exploded in recent years, with retail investors bearing the brunt of abuses in this space. Meanwhile, cyber-related threats continue to pose existential risks to our financial markets and participants. The bolstered crypto assets and cyber unit will be at the forefront of protecting investors and ensuring fair and orderly markets in the face of these critical challenges." While this sounds promising, the problem is that the SEC is not doing the regulation the right way. Instead of going after new coins in the crypto market, they ought to be going after scam projects and sketchy actors in the industry. That should be their main focus. It is also worth mentioning that the SEC has so far failed to provide any clear rules of the road on how they will regulate the crypto market. Hence, new crypto projects don't understand what they're doing wrong and what they're doing right. And considering how unregulated the industry is, project creators often live within an internal purgatory where they don't know what's right and they don't know what's wrong either. So therefore, if anything goes wrong, can we honestly blame them? No. And this is where the irony is, the SEC is simply not doing enough. They should be providing clear guidelines for these good actors to follow, but instead, what they are currently doing is hiring more people to attack different projects based on arbitrary criteria. Assuming the SEC is only going after bad actors, that, to some extent, could have been termed a good thing. Instead, what is becoming more apparent with the SEC is that they are only interested in going after projects that give them the biggest payday. That is probably the reason why they are suddenly increasing their number of regulatory enforcement people. Right now, one can only hope that Ripple beat them in this legal battle, as that would, to an extent, cause the SEC to lose a great deal of its power. Another interesting take, and probably the most eye-opener, is that with the way the SEC is going about this, they are only going to cause good projects to be pushed out of the United States. And whichever way you look at this, that will be bad for the crypto market in the United States going forward. Jeremy Hogan, who is a legal entity, also weighed into this issue. He said in one of his replies to a tweet, "I receive emails weekly from people who are scammed, etc., and many are horrific stories. Why isn't protecting fraud against retail first, second, and third on the SEC crypto agenda? What email have I never received? Help, I was sold an unregistered security, not one." This is a classic case of misplaced priority, according to Jeremy Hogan. In fact, Jeremy Hogan saw the funny side in this. Shortly after the announcement that the SEC is hiring more members to their cyber units, he tweeted that the SEC hires 20 more lawyers and staff to crack down on crypto abuse, but fails to hire a single lawyer to draft clear regulations as to what abuse is. The new lawyer training process must be very difficult. SEC nearly doubles crypto unit. Ripple's case with the SEC has been a long-standing one. The battle, which began in December 2020 when the SEC argued that XRP is essentially an illegal securities offering, and that Ripple did not provide the type of financial and managerial information required by law, is still very much ongoing even in 2022. The good news, however, is that this case might be getting close to being resolved in favor of Ripple, of course. Not only will this be a big win for XRP holders, but it will also be a big win for the entire crypto industry. Before we dive into this, you will remember that there was a brand new filing in the Ripple and the SEC case. Ripple specifically asked the court for some extra time to respond to the SEC claims that the Bill Hinman emails regarding the Ethereum free pass speech were covered by attorney-client privilege. If you will remember, Hinman's emails, which was leaked by a nonprofit whistleblower group called Empower Oversight. The email shows glaring conflicts of interest in Hinman's role as an SEC director. As Alderoti rightly put it, he said that Hinman's emails showed that there was a control breakdown at the SEC. How did that happen? It just seems to me that that is a basic question that the SEC should be asking itself. There was a controlled breakdown, and why isn't the SEC taking this control breakdown seriously? The good news now is, in the last hearing, Ripple was eventually granted the extra time to respond to the SEC request to make those emails attorney-client privilege, which then gives Ripple some extra time to fight this. But the SEC actually came back and asked to file a response to Ripple's objection that the emails are not covered by attorney-client privilege. While reacting to this, Ashley Proper said in his tweet that, "It looks like the SEC already predicts the problems Ripple will point out with their attorney-client privilege motion. Should have thought about those before submitting the motion. Very poor lawyering." What Ashley Prosper was on about here is that the SEC is saying they want to appeal Ripple's appeal to the SEC calling Hitman's emails attorney-client privilege before they even saw Ripple's appeal. So what Jeremy Hogan is saying is that it looks like the SEC is simply saying it doesn't matter what Ripple says, they will be repealing this no matter what. If this turns out to be the case, then there is a high chance that there will be a delay in judgment. Also, the SEC is not fighting this case based on merits. Instead, they are simply using this case as a weapon against Ripple. In another tweet by Ripple attorney, Jeremy Hogan, he seems to have dropped a hint that the SEC is potentially hiding a document where they concluded that XRP was not a security. Although this so far hasn't been verified. But just like everyone else, we should wait and see when the full email will get released. So there you have it, guys. It looks as though Ripple is finally going to get that big win over the SEC, because once the email gets released, that should up the chance of Ripple winning the lawsuit. Make sure to subscribe and give us a thumbs up. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next video. Kindly note that the prices of cryptocurrencies frequently change, so by the time you watch this video, it might have changed to a whole new value. The information provided in this video does not constitute investment advice, financial advice, trading advice, or any other sort of advice, and you should not treat any of the content as such. The content in this video is for educational purposes only and hence should not be considered financial advice. Do conduct your due diligence and consult your financial advisor before making any investment decisions.